Good evening, welcome to another swelteringly hot living room session here from the sunny tropical south side of Glasgow in an unusual heatwave. I'm David Burns, I'm the host of Live from the Living Room Sessions, and tonight in the studio here we've got a live session here from someone that I've been wanting to get in for a living room session for a long time. An old friend of mine, we've played together in quite a few different bands and musical projects. He was the original bass player in Marshall Chipped. He was the lead guitarist in Roscoe Vacant and the Gatton Creeks, and he is a magnificent songwriter in his own right. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ross Gilchrist.
London 1897. Wow. Oh, there's a red gibbous waxing dripping on the spinning bowl. A frozen expression of sepia spirits sprayed with life and lineage. Coronary calluses protect those sniffing hounds back to the yard. Boys are back and may be heard. Echoes of Cain, but with force as design. Deliberate, malicious, only fools doubted plan. The devil's in the details of the black dog said. And the stench of pampered arrogance lingers on his mortal wound. There's a butcher up in Baker Street, a striker up in Soho, the eulogist in Houston Road squeeze. Cry ever can, let slip the dogs. Oh, whoa, 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 oh, 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 oh. Calvin pipes left smoking, body strewn, softly purring on a floor of velvet pillows, and the vacant expression of hardly present spirits was killed by a howl and a bite. We'd snapped the passes out, boys. A dog's nose never lies. Meanwhile, a sleek and slender shadow skips over Slade. He takes no pride in his skill today. Whoa. An unwilling utterance, and the beacons are lit. Close out, boys, the bitches drew the line. Oh, 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 the skirmish in Savile Row. It was the best dressed slaughter that you've ever seen, and the massacre in Mayfair of survivors, no tales were told, and it was followed by the sick smell of a blood-drenched Sunday morning. Hitherto unseen flags fly unfurled, and a trail of tiny footprints decorated by dragging tails. The new king of England is crowned at dawn, and his first words were spoken with the tone of a heavy heart. Back to your posts, boys. Back to your posts, boys. Back to your posts, boys. No, back to your posts, boys. Those rat bastards killed Mickey. Now, ooh, oh,
Ross Gilchrist with the final war of cats and dogs. Fantastic way to kick off the show, and we've already got our first viewers' comments. Gil is watching. Hello, Gil. How you doing?
Hello, Gil.
And he simply has to say, Ross, Yaldi.
Well, thanks very much, Gil. Cool.
Yeah, that is exactly it. Yaldi. That is all we can say when you see the strumming like that. That's fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a fun song. I just had this idea when I was writing it that I'm a great believer in the idea that ideas can come to anyone, but it's through whatever creates your personality that shapes and molds the idea into what it is. And the idea of having a song that told a story, I've always been really into, but the idea that told a linear story that with no real repeats or any kind of verses or choruses, I really wanted to break down traditional structure with that one and just throw it out the window and just say, right, well, if we can just have it moving in a straight line. And I know that sounds like Spinal Tap's Spherical Song, but that was Christopher Morris actually when he was interviewing Babylon Zoo. He was like, you were going to write a spherical song, but that was the idea. And then I was playing a lot of Call of Cthulhu at the time, and I just thought that it would be really cool to have a Disney song that's really aggressive and tells a kind of Disney-esque story, but is also a sort of fairy tale allegory for war begets war and violence begets violence, and it was just a lot of fun to write, and that's all I try and do is just write something that's fun for me.
Yeah, if you're enjoying what you're playing, if you've got a story to tell, then that's it. Yeah.
No, yeah. Shall I move on and play something?
Yeah. What are we gonna have now?
This one's called Gross Misconduct. I don't believe I've ever played this song live much.
No, I don't think I've heard this one.
It's actually, I wrote it at the same time as Final War of Cats and Dogs. It's about my time working for Haven Holidays and the things we used to get up to. The most debauchery, if you can imagine, the most irresponsible debauchery that humankind is capable of. That was what we were indulging in through this, and
take a group of folk and put them in a holiday camp just far enough away from here that they're just away from civilization, if it can be called civilization.
Precisely, and you can just I could write a sitcom about it. I really could, because it was drugs, it was sex, it was violence, it was all sorts of things, and it was all, and not all of it was good, but at the same time, I fell into a relationship at that time as well, and it was a really great one, and I wanted to show that dichotomy. So this is that sort of dichotomy between all this horrible stuff, and yet there's still this oasis of peace that was this relationship. So
it might not make the Haven holiday brochure, but
give it a go.
But take it away.
15 minutes, got a coke split, got a whole lot of just ketamine, and I want one with you every moment. 15 minutes, stay back of house, don't let the bastard see it dark, that's in your eyes. Can't stop laughing, no, could someone clean the sex mess off the back of his chair? A kitchen steeped in ecstasy and STDs for years, all the night or overtime while crying in our heads. The manager's embezzlement cost 2 careers and a child's bed. We are the ultra-friendly face of youth service. What would you like? I better get it before my heart just stops beating. Then let me walk barefoot in the sunshine to her room. I'm much too clever to tip and wake her, though I have nothing to hide. I'm 1 closet away from 80 pounds of freedom at a fortnightly rate, and the earth can go fuck itself while I perfect the formula to destroy myself. 15 minutes, got the blister pack booze with the codeine contingent in the eyes, roll mouth from supper crucifix in the ashtray, baby. Don't ever change, baby. Tethered by enabled ignition, we fall. 15 15 minutes, oh God, she knows. The poor girl, she knows, oh God, she knows that the whole wide world is pointing and whispering, could someone clean the sex mess off the back of his chair? The kitchen steeped in ecstasy and STDs for years, all denied or overtime while crying in our heads. The manager's embezzlement cost 2 careers and a child's bed. We are the ultra-friendly face of good service. What would you like? I better get it before my heart just starts beating. Then let me walk barefoot in the sunshine to her room. I'm much too clever to trip and wake her, though I have nothing to hide. I'm 1 closet away from 80 pounds of freedom at a fortnightly rate, and the earth can go fuck itself while I perfect formula to destroy myself. Oh, 15 minutes, got a coke spliff, got a whole hour just ketamine, and I can't work with you anymore, man.
Ross Gilchrist here, live in the living room, and Gil's saying that's sounding good. And you may be the only viewer that we have tonight, because I think Gil, yourself, and us here in this room may be the only people who are not watching the England game right now. But as long as there's music, we'll keep going. What would you like to play for us now, Ross?
I'd quite like to play a newer song that I put up on YouTube not so long ago. It's called "I Love You More Than I Should." It's quite a complex song. Again, it's me playing with traditional song structure, and this one in particular is it's sort of about my relationship with Christ, actually, and about the verses take the form of these small vignettes where they're memories that are encased with Christ as a sort of recurring theme. Like, they're not it doesn't even really mention that in the verses, but that's where it ties it all in at the end. And it's sort of me trying to reconcile the person I was when I was growing up Christian with the person I am now, who's not. and I'm trying to think that it's also about memory and how memory isn't what we think it is, and it's affected by the present and how we're remembering things. It's very based on Jung's idea of memory, where he was talking about how the future can influence memory, and even just the act of remembering something changes the memory.
Yes, it's not the objective thing that we think it is.
It's subject to all manner of interpretations and variants and environmental factors that we don't generally think of when we consider consciousness, which is I think that's becoming more of a thing I'm trying to write about, is just consciousness itself. I'm finding it quite interesting. So this is "I Love You More Than I Should." I love you more than I should. I love you more than I should. And stop if I could, I would. I love you more than I should. And the dance continues, breaking our hearts apart, and I fall asleep. I can't go home. No, I can't go home. 'Cause if I could, I would walk right in, and I'd hug my father and my brother and my mother. Would I make the most of the time we had before I fall asleep again? I'm drowning in the things that I've done. I'm drowning in the things that I've done. I must accept I can do and be wrong. need to admit the real world's where I belong. I must admit that I fuck up before I fall asleep again. I miss you more than I should. I miss you more than I should. The dreams I've been having are a symptom of crying, and the dance continues, breaking our hearts apart, and I fall asleep. Am I gonna dream your missing face? Am I gonna misplace my dying dream? Am I gonna dream you'll all understand once again? But I'll wait for you, 'cause I need something true. Dream me right back to the day I was young, when I felt the sun and smoke on my face. 'Cause I take myself far too seriously, man, and I'm crying out for God in my sleep. Dream me right back to the day I was young, when I felt the sun and smoke on my face. 'Cause I take myself far too seriously, man, and I'm crying out for God in my sleep. Sinners, poets, and drunkards raise a glass for Jesus Christ. He can't hold the thing us all for his wounds. Dream me right back to the day I was young, when I felt the sun and smoke on my face. 'Cause I take myself far too seriously, man, and I'm crying out for God in my sleep. Sinners, poets, and drunkards raise a glass for Jesus Christ. He can't hold the fucker up for his wounds. Dream me right back to the day I was young, when I felt the sun and smoke on my face. Yeah! 'Cause I take myself far too fucking seriously, man, and I'm crying out for God in my sleep. Sinners, poets, and drunkards raise a glass for Jesus Christ. He can't hold the fucker up for his wounds. Dream me right back to the day I was young, when I felt the sun and smoke on my face. I love you more than I should. I love you more than I should. And stop if I could, I would. I love you more than I should. And the dance continues, breaking our hearts apart, and I fall asleep. And I fall asleep, and I fall asleep.
That's a beautiful song, Ross. Well played.
Oh, thanks, man. Thank you.
So we were talking just before you played that about what that one's a wee bit about, and you were talking about the nature of consciousness and subjectivity. That seems to be quite a common theme in a lot of your writing. What is it that inspires you when you're coming up with songs?
Well, really, everything. That's a tough question. It's really tough. Generally, I'm trying to fix a problem. I'm trying to work out in my head when I'm writing something, that where I've encountered an issue and I've been able to articulate it, but I need to find a resolution. So there I was going, right, well, there the idea was Christianity, like the line at the end there where it's like, raise a glass for Jesus Christ, they can't hold the thing up for his wounds. That's about the current state of Christianity now. That's about, like there's no chance of Christ coming back. Like, that's sad to me. Like, there's no way that we'll get Jesus or Christianity as a religion that binds people together. And I mean, this is one of the things, like, philosophy really does influence me a lot. I read a lot of philosophy and a lot of psychology. So, I mean, when Nietzsche first identified the death of God, he believed that art was going to be the transcendental thing that binds cultures together. And he identified the music of Wagner to be that particular thing. And they had a falling out eventually and everything, but I still believe that that's the case, and I think we can actually see that happen. I think we saw that happen in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, and it was in the noughties where it didn't so much bring us together as fractal us off into different little groups.
Yeah,
like,
it seems to be since we've reached the point where everything is accessible. There's no kind of one unifying thing where everybody kind of congeals around it and sort of says that this is the thing that everyone's doing at the moment.
Well, yeah, and I think there's a great need for that. Like, and I mean, and you can find that kind of communitarian ideal in concerts still, but it's not as binding as, it doesn't bind the community as in a geographical community together, like a town, and like that thing where we all got together on a Sunday and it was all the same people all the time and they were all from a same area roughly. That's gone, and there's nothing that, and you can see that sort of the spectre of the thin shadow of what Christianity was. You can see it crumbling away even still, and there is a sadness there for that, because I do think, I mean, when I look back on me as a Christian, I was a very, very happy person, and I found a lot of strength in Jesus. And there was one, I mean, my mum actually at one point has told a story where I said I wanted to be a minister when I was a kid, and it's true, I did. But as I got older, I lost my faith in Christianity, and I don't believe in Jesus anymore. But I do think that we do need some higher purpose, be that, I mean, I don't know whether that, we need some kind of binding thing, like even Nietzsche, this is what Nietzsche's philosophy was all about, the death of God. I mean, it was a tragedy for Nietzsche. Like, everybody attributes, like, God is dead as his killer quote, but it's not, it's a lament for Nietzsche. It's like, who will wash the blood from our hands? Like, we've committed the murder of murders. Like, there's no higher treason against ourselves or the world we could commit than ruining that religion, and there is an element, there's still an element of truth to that, I feel.
There is a very deep-seated human need for some kind of meaning.
Yeah. Well, I mean, whether that's, and we can see that, I think, particularly we see that with communities falling apart and not getting any better. You can see that when somebody, I think that Jim Monaghan, when he moved into Govan Hill and created the Govan Hill Baths, that was a moment where somebody comes in and says, look, here's the purpose, and it made the community better. Yeah,
I mean, that's just across the road from us here is the Govan Hill Baths, which has been a fantastic community resource for Govan Hill. It's brought people together. It's given a focal point to everything that's going on around here. It hosts, you know, a lot of events and things, and the sit-ins back in was that the late 90s?
I think so.
When it was threatened with closure, when the council pulled the funding out of it, that totally galvanised what is often regarded as a very deprived community, and a community with so many people from different backgrounds. It gave them something to all centre around, mm-hmm. And it's been a very good thing for us here having that.
It galvanises the community. And there's the. I'm not saying that we need religion, but I do think we need a purpose that transcends the material world. Like
something.
I like, even if it is just something that is materialistic and exists in this world, I still think that there is something that will survive even longer than that. Is something that doesn't talk about material world. That is more about. I mean, there's a dearth of spiritual awareness, and and I think you should explore your spiritual side as best you can, which is why you'll see people trying to take drugs and everything, because it's like they want to experience something beyond themselves, and whether that's like just a decadent hedonistic wish, like just to get fucked up, it's still a manifestation of their internal desire for something more than they're experiencing, like currently, you know. And I think it's a huge problem for society. And the West living without Christianity is still struggling.
It's a void that really hasn't been completely filled.
No, and I think we were so close with the hippie culture, because there was a lot that in the 60s there was something there that I still think is probably superior to all of the other countercultures that came after it, because it was. I mean, when you speak to people of that generation who encountered that, they speak of it with a reverence that you can't find in you can't find it in Britpop. You can't find it in punk music, but maybe you can with some punk cultures, like there are still punk subcultures and everything, but it's not to the same degree where people were giving up their entire lifestyle and changing it and becoming another person because they had this experience on LSD or something, and I think that's a huge thing. Like,
I think that was the last kind of community. Musical community, but it was bigger than just music.
Yeah.
It was one of the few that existed for more than just to sell records.
It transcended the medium, and I think that's why I really revere people like David Lynch is a great example. I really love David Lynch's work because it transcends the medium. Like I can't remember who says it, but the medium is the message. If you've ever done media studies, you might know that. Like that quote.
I should remember who said that.
You know the quote I mean, though.
Yep.
The media is the message. Well, Lynch's work transcends that. Well, it transcends the medium and the message. Like, it's something beyond. Like, it's not. It doesn't even. There's a qualitative difference between what Lynch does and what everybody else does. That just it's marked instantly as superior. Like, for me anyway, I don't know whether that everybody feels that, but I genuinely do. Whenever I watch a David Lynch thing, I think this is beyond. Like,
I have to confess, I don't actually know a lot of his work outside of a few of the films that I've seen, but the ones that I have seen, even if I don't understand them, there's something about them. There's something to them. I can't quite put my finger on what it is, but
it's weird. It's very weird, and I think it's to do with a lot of how he meditates and the emphasis he puts on the meditation in his own work. The way, because if you ever read his book Catching the Big Fish, it's about how he generates ideas, and he doesn't refer to him conceiving of ideas. He refers to ideas being in this pool of the unmanifest, and that he's somewhat akin to a fisherman who just simply lowers his rod into the water and then he'll find a bite, and that's an idea that he can work with, and it becomes something else. And there's still something. It's shamanistic. That's the word I'm looking for. It's beyond just intellectual construction. It's really intuitive. It's not really a process. It's just he does something till he feels it's correct, and that's how I try to write my stuff. Like, I write till I feel it's correct.
It's when you've got something that when you know you're onto it, it's like you feel like somebody must have written this song or made this film before.
Yeah.
You can't believe that it doesn't already exist.
It's too obvious an idea to not exist.
Yeah. Speaking of David Lynch, I believe you've just published an analysis of Twin Peaks.
Yeah. Well, I was working on that like off and on for a while, but I mean, I just when I was watching it, I really felt like I had a lot to say about it, and that I didn't really. I waited till everybody else did their bit and said what they were going to say about it and their critical analysis of it, and then I felt that what I saw in it was lacking, and that a lot of people were getting focused on the minutiae of where plot elements should be, and creating a timeline that makes sense.
In the little details
yeah,
of it.
yeah. Instead of looking at what it means, which is the purpose of art. Like, you don't stand in front of a Van Gogh painting and go, well, that little thing should be over here because it's... You don't reconstruct the world of a Van Gogh painting when you look at it. You just look at it and go, bloody hell. Like, that's unbelievably good. Like,
yeah. You should be able to look at it and see how it moves you and how you feel when you're experiencing it.
And even if you can't articulate a meaning to it, you know there's a meaning there. Even in just his style, there was a meaning, because it was him articulating the way he literally saw the world. Because, I mean, he probably had bipolar disorder or schizophrenia. We don't know. It's one of the two.
There does seem to be a fairly convincing argument that there was he had some kind of condition like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we could argue for days about how Monet is probably just short-sighted. You know,
just saw the world as a blur.
Yeah, it's just a Monet vision. You know, when I got my glasses off, it's Monet vision.
I know that feeling.
Yeah. But yeah, shall we play a number?
We've been talking for a while. We probably should do a song.
Cool. You might know this one. When we were Elysian idyllic, dormantly tectonic, milking honey pours away, promise, yet still it's gone. From green to ruin, you tempted to bear the cross I'd laid us on myself. By all accounts, you waited long enough, 'cause I guess Godot and me got stuck at the bar now. You thought that you fucked it up, but only for a week now. What was the catalyst for this remiss into this bliss? And on that, our hearts they took to the abyss. Oh, and I swear to you that I'm so fucking awesome now. No, I'm doing so awesome. Am I doing awesome now? Well, this fearsome man Johnny has been released. Just keep lying, boy. Just keep crying, boy. Now I could wrap this fucker up in metaphor, but wheels broken, burning sour road. I guess this one's for the road, but it's my only bit of wisdom now. 'Cause if I was you, I'd have said, fuck me too now, baby. You thought that you fucked it up, but only for a week now. Oh, what was the catalyst for this remiss into this bliss? And on that, our hearts they took to the abyss. Oh, and I swear to you that I'm so fucking awesome now. No, I'm doing so awesome. Am I doing awesome now? Well, this fearsome man Johnny has been but only for a week now. Oh, what was the catalyst for this remiss into this glisten tone that our hearts they took to the abyss? Oh, and I swear to you that I'm so fucking awesome now. No, I'm doing so awesome. I fuck doing awesome now. Well, this fearsome engine has been released. Just keep lying, boy. Just keep crying, boy.
That's good to hear that one again. I've not heard that in quite a while. Fantastic. Apologies if we're having a few technical problems on the stream today. The video's been a little bit glitchy. I think our internet connection's been dropping down a wee bit. I'm going to blame that on England fans all trying to watch the live stream of the game. But hopefully you can still hear us. We've got a little message just come in from Gil again, saying he saw Monet's Water Lilies and it was amazing, so big and just beautiful. Van Gogh's Sunflowers was in the next room. Both works show medical situations. It says that the stream does seem to be working for him. It might just be a wee glitch at our end here that is making it seem as if it's glitching a wee bit, but it's good to know that it is coming through okay. So I'm going to hand you back over to Ross, and what are we going to do now?
I want to do a Ben Folds song if that's okay.
That's quite all right.
September 75, I was 47 inches high. My mom said by Christmas I would have a badass mother G.I. Joe for your little minds to go. I still got beat up every class. Yeah, now I'm big and important. One angry dwarf and 200 silent faces of you. If you really want to see me, check the papers and the TV. Look who's telling who what to do. Kiss my ass goodbye. Give me that bullshit, you know who I am. I'm your nightmare little man. You think you stole my lunch money, made me cry. Jane remembers second grade, said you couldn't stand my face. Rather than kiss me, you said you'd rather die. Now I'm big and important. One angry dwarf and 200 silent faces of you. If you really want to see me, check the papers and the TV. Look who's telling who what to do. Kiss my ass goodbye. You'll be sorry one day, yes you will, yes you will. You shouldn't push me around, cause I will, yes I will. You will be sorry when I'm big, yes you will, yes you will. You should be sorry. Now I'm big and important. One angry dwarf and 200 silent faces of you. If you really want to see me, check the papers and the TV. Look who's telling who what to do. Kiss my ass goodbye. Goodbye now, goodbye now. I thought in the bad's gone in my bed back the oh, kiss my ass, goodbye now, kiss my ass, goodbye now. September 75 was 47 inches high.
Ross Gilchrist there with a Ben Folds number here for live from the Livingroom gigs, and I always find it fascinating insight into to musicians with the covers that they choose. So Ross, what is it that Ben Folds means to you?
He's my hero, man. I love him. I genuinely do. Like I've met Ben twice, and the first time I heard him was I heard a cover. I heard him play the Battle of Who Could Care Less on the chart show on ITV around about 1994 or 5. It was one of the very first singles they ever did, and I don't know how it managed to be on the ITV chart show, but I remember seeing it and going, bloody hell, what's this? Because it just sounded so different. It was like, this is a dude with a piano, an electric bass, and a drummer, and they all sing, and it was like, it was nerdy, and it felt right, you know. And then I never heard anything about him again for years until I remembered the name. I remembered his name, and I went and bought the first album, Ben Folds 5 Euponymous, and I got Whatever and Ever Amen about the same time, and it literally blew my head apart. Like, I'd never heard right. So a lot of the times, like, pop music is constructed like this, right? Like, right. So you hear a lot of that, or a lot of. So, you know, you hear 1 5 4 6. You know, you hear a lot of this stuff.
The chord changes are always pretty standard. So.
Yeah, or even like so. Like all of that stuff, and I was like, yeah, that's fine. But Ben, like, even you analyze this, like that song, right? So it's a B minor 7th into a chromatic run. And then it goes to the 4th, and then into another chromatic run, and then into another minor 7th, and then into a G major 7th. You're like, and he makes all of these beautiful chords sound hideous, and it's great. And you just like the construction of harmony is. I'm really quite anal retentive about it. Right, I'm very careful with the colors I use because so G for me, G is green. I see green. Normal basic G is green. D is blue. Everything in D is blue, unless it's D minor, which is it's kind of like a purpley red. It's a very different sound. E minor's always black, and that's more because of the sort of metal albums that have kind of lodged that in my brain. But Ben's stuff to me is like Technicolor lights going on and off all the time, and it's incredible. Like, even when he does really simple stuff, the way chords are constructed on the guitar is entirely different to the way chords are constructed on a piano. So that's a power chord. It's a 5th, right? It's so basically that's C, right? So it's C, G, and then C again, and then E, and then G. On piano, it's not that way at all. It's actually constructed completely differently. It's actually C, E, G. It's that, and that changes the whole tonality of the tracks. It makes everything sound that little bit different, and the way he plays, is just amazing. That bit where he goes. Right, so that section is actually really quite harmonically complex because it's a chromatic run, and then another chromatic run, and then a descent. It shows you the tonic of the key, then it ascends chromatically to the tonic of the key from another note in the scale, right? And then he moves that same riff up, and then it's another chromatic run ascending to the new key. It's not actually in the same key. Even those two sections they're actually two different keys strung together, and his songs are just natural. Like, in the way that John Lennon's time signature changes are just really bizarre, but they happen so naturalistically that you don't notice them. Like, Across the Universe is actually Words Are Flowing Out, and there's like a 5/8. There's a bar of 5/8 in there and a bar of 2/4 in there for no reason other than it sounds great. Right. It suits the melody. It's bespoke harmonic construction for the melody, and Ben does that, but he does it not with time, but with harmony, and that's infinitely more interesting than like he takes punk music and gives it jazz chords. That's essentially what he does, and it's genius. Like, and his lyrics are just always about stuff that I recognize as having experienced, and when I did actually speak to him, I asked him, do you have perfect pitch or do you have relative pitch? And he said, no, I've got relative pitch, which is what I've got. I don't have perfect pitch. I've got something that's... If I'd been trained from a child, I'd have had perfect pitch. And the same with Ben. Ben came to... If you don't get trained in no intervals in the first 2 years of your life, you'll never have perfect pitch. It's impossible to develop it. But you can develop relative pitch. And that's just through sheer talent. Like, I hate saying that because a lot of people don't like it, but that's and plus it assumes that I've got talent. But it's one of those things where it's like, well, there is such a thing as like a natural ability, and I do know I do have that. I don't think it's vain in me to say that I do have that.
I think we can say that.
And when I was tested at school, they sat me down with a music teacher and a piano opposite, and when he told me what, and I couldn't tell what the notes were on their own, but if he told me what a note was, I could tell what the next note in sequence would be. Yeah. So I mean, when I hear a seventh, like that's I can hear the different tones of the chords. Like the major seventh is the most beautiful chord ever created.
Yeah,
it's stunning. Like, and then, but that's just, you just take the octave of the tonic note and flatten it by one fret or one semitone, and then if you flatten it again by another semitone, it becomes a seventh, which is another stunningly beautiful chord. And harmony is just so important, and the palette that songwriters use now is so limited.
I was just going to say, when I busk a lot, so I've got quite a lot of covers in my repertoire, the whole book full of them through there, and it's quite fascinating to me looking at the differences in the way songs are developed, and the chords that are used as time has gone on, and tastes have changed, fashions have changed, and the harmonic structure of songs that are going back into the 60s, into the 50s, back more when jazz was more of an influence, they're infinitely more complex in their arrangements than they are now. Whereas a lot, it's not universal. There are still songwriters that do much more interesting things today, but it's not nearly as common, and they're just using far more limited palettes than they could be, and I think it's blanded out a lot of modern songwriting.
Yeah, it's really a problem. It's the dichotomy between, like, I really love doo-wop and rock and roll took the harmonic structure of jazz and stripped out all of the complexity and made it very simple, which was both a really good thing and a bad thing, because it allowed for the invention of a new style of music which had fantastic melodic hooks, but infinitely less complexity than that, which is good. And it's good and bad because it allows more kids into music earlier, but they're not experiencing more complex stuff as they go, because they're
well, that's the thing. There's not so much complex stuff in the mainstream at the moment.
Yeah.
Whereas before, you would see more melodically complex songs being big hits, and there was room for much more different styles on the radio. Whereas now it's just whatever fits into a very narrow playlist format.
Yeah. So what? I was going to right. So there's a great example again, right? So across the universe, right? Words are flowing out like endless rain into a paper cup. They slither while they pass, they slip away across the universe, right? So that's stuff. Sudden, like it's like, so basically the chord progressions. It's just like, why would you not want to write something like that?
Yeah.
Because it's stunning. It's so, like, it just takes your heart and just grabs it and squeezes it in a good way. Not in a bad, but I'm sorry to like rant on about how music's kind of sucky now.
It's a fascinating thing though, because there should be room for more than there is at the moment. There should be the room for fantastically complex, harmonically rich jazz influence, all sorts of influences. There should be room for the punk songs that can strip everything right down to a really deep raw emotion and just a real physicality of the performance.
Yep.
There should be room for catchy pop music. There should be space for all of that, but
yep.
I don't feel that we're seeing very much more than just a few very, very narrow genres around just now.
No, and worse than that, we're not seeing much harmonic variance between tracks. So it's the unpredictability of music has been sacrificed on the altar of saleability, which is not great, because normally people just want to hear is the same stuff. They want to hear stuff that they can instantly recognize as good, but they don't recognize it as their good really means
familiar.
Yes, precisely. That's exactly it. And I think that's sad, because it's stopped people exploring music more fully, and even metal bands like that, but that they're limiting themselves to a set number of scales, like melodic minors and different like Phrygian modes and that kind of thing, and it's just not great, because bands should be allowed to do whatever they want, and the expectations of the audience places a harmonic constraint on the artist, and that's not a good thing. I mean, that's what I've been trying to do with I Love You More Than I Should. I was trying to use very specific colours at very specific points in time. So like there's that bit where it's right, let me see if I can pull this back up again. So it's would I make the most of the time we had before I fall asleep? Right, so basic bit. So if you listen to it, I switch to the G7th, and then I let it ring out, and see when I say the word asleep, there's no chord. There's literally no harmony there to support that note, because if I had to put the chord in there that supports that note, it wouldn't sound good. But the note on its own, you can get away with. And that's what was exciting about writing that, was going, right, oh, right, I can take that colour and I can put it there, and I don't need to do this here. And it was really there's this chord in there, that chord in there, that.
What is that?
I don't know. No, it's a D augmented. It's a D suspended second augmented fifth.
Right.
But yeah,
I have a fair idea with what I'm talking about with music, but a lot of that just flew over my head.
But the suspended second is just the second note of the scale, and it's placed at a point in the chord where it sounds nice, like normally above the fourth or the fifth. But in that instance, so I'll play it in this key. So there's the second there. There's the second. It's essentially, think of it like E, right? So you're playing a D and there's an E, but it's not an E. That's actually a G. Never mind.
That's another example false then.
Yeah, it's really a G sharp, but that's but and I can't remember where I've got that chord from, but I'm sure I made it up. But you've never, you can never make up.
Sometimes I've found really strange and beautiful chords just by picking my guitar up in a weird way, and
absolutely
just where my fingers have landed on the fretboard. And I would to go back to an example that I always use with a band that are heroes of mine, and it's a relatively simple melodic piece, but Man in the Moon by R.E.M., the verse structure of that, it's a 2-chord thing.
Yep.
But that came about with Bill Berry, the drummer, sitting playing around on acoustic guitar, strumming a C chord, turning around to pick up his beer, and his hand sliding up the fretboards. And just that sliding note, oh, that sounds good. I'll use that somewhere. It's that beautiful serendipity
it's stunning.
of music just that it can just come to you without you consciously thinking about it.
Yeah, and one of the first guy I sort of hung about with who was interested in music with me, he wrote. Right, I'll see if we can remember. He did a lot of stuff that was moving single chords up and down the fretboard as well, and this riff he came up with. And I think that's a great little riff. It's very it sounds very emotive, and I never did anything with it. But it's just a very lovely. It's just a lovely sounding chord.
It is, yeah.
And yeah, he wrote that much like you say. It's just him moving chord shapes up the fretboard and finding what sounds good
until you find what seems right.
Yeah, it's just a variant of G. I mean, that's all it is. But it's is it no, it's not.
But it's got those notes underneath it that you wouldn't normally have in that chord that just make it just that little bit more unusual.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, right. So let's look at like something for the 90s, right? So there's the Manics, right? Designed for Life, right? Right? So I mean, I muddled it there, but that's the chord structure. Like, you do not hear that anymore. And that's what makes James Dean Bradfield very much similar to Ben in a lot of ways. Like, they're very harmonically inclined and very good with creating a melody line that threads through very interesting chords. And to me, that's skill. That's skill in writing. Like, very much like Brian Wilson. Brian Wilson wrote in two bass keys, like two bass clefs. Like he'd have two.
How does that work?
Well, he would have a bass guitar playing the actual bass, and then he would have a bass harmonica, and then he'd have a harmonica on the top, a piccolo harmonica, to round it out. So whenever you hear, there's a lot of harmonica work in Brian's stuff, and the two basses give it this, like, it's almost like Debussy. I'm very much into Debussy, like the way he wrote with two keys and once. He was polytonic, like, all the time. Like, he used to write in two keys simultaneously. The bass would be in one key, and the rest of the harmony would be in a completely other key, and he would make it work by just threading through particular lines. And that kind of skill doesn't exist anymore, and not many composers can do that anymore.
It's much, much rarer now, yeah.
Yeah, which, I mean, I just think it's a tragedy. It really is. But what are you going to do? I mean, can't change it now, eh?
Well, we can just write songs that are more than just a simple EAB.
Yes, we can do that.
There's more to it. So shall we get another song from you?
Yeah, this one's called Never Call You Darling. I gotta make space in my brain, I was not prepared for you, and the acerbic grapes you throw, and I can't help but express myself in torment. You seem to see the bar of me, thought you're outside my door, and yet you're only a friend removed, and that. But I promise I will never call you darling. I won't presume to know your mind. I'll refrain from the hyperbole to which romantics are inclined, and if it burns out my cigarettes, just toxic and malign, I promise I won't leave you. I was far from my mind, and I said, oh, 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 I can't help but to rest myself. I'm an overthinking mess. You seem to think the same as me, yet we both trip up on our feet, and yet time is what we needed most, and but I promise I will never call you darling. I won't presume to know your mind. I'll refrain from the hyperbole to which romantics are inclined. And if it burns out like cigarettes, just toxic and malign, I promise I won't leave you. I was far from my mind. And I sing, oh, 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 myself sing, and I gotta see you tonight. But I promise I will never call you darling. I won't presume to know your mind. I'll refrain from the hyperbole to which romantics are inclined. And if it burns out like cigarettes, just toxic and malign, I promise I won't leave you. I was just far from my mind. And I said, oh, 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 oh,
I've just seen what time it is. The time has flown in tonight. That's our hour pretty much up. Thank you very much for coming in and talking to us and playing for us, Ross.
You're welcome.
And just before we go, I'm just going to put a little plug out. There's a couple of links on the screen there. Facebook.com/live from the Livingroom gigs. That's our Facebook page where you can get all sorts of information on all of the artists that are coming in to play. The other one, patreon.com/live from the Livingroom gigs. That's if you've enjoyed the show and you'd like to help to support, give us the funds to put it on every week. There's a few different options that you can go into there, a few different rewards. That includes shout-outs on the show, access to exclusive behind-the-scenes footage and extra recordings, and also one option where you can get free Marshall chipped records sent out to you whenever they're completed. So just before we go, let's just give a wee shout-out to our Patreon supporters. Thank you to everyone that has been watching. Cheers to Gil for joining us in the chat room. It's been a pleasure talking to you there. And I'm just going to hand over to Ross for one more song to close out the show.
Everything dies. Everything dies. Everything dies every 65 million years. And we're so long overdue, we better break out the Jaeger and go on a grin, cause we've had a good run. All of us bar the host had a good one now, and we're the most decadent, deliberate bastards to set foot on the planet since T-Rex was picking vegans off the floor. Whoa, and we did it with H-bombs, we did it with style, with blue walls in the sky and invented mayonnaise in a technicolor parallax to a periscopic haze, which we did it as James Bond, we did it as brains. The solid snakes, vampire snakes, mopping our man juices off the floor, the cake from our shirts and swell from our troughs. I'm up for it. This bouncing up and down, whoa. In a universe we don't understand, and if we did, whoa, we simply wouldn't be the most violent, vile bastards to set foot on the planet since T-Rex was picking vegans off the floor. Whoa, whoa. Volcanoes may blow every couple of 100 years. It's a reminder that the universe is out to kill us. Smoke up a bowl and celebrate the round. All of us barred the host, had a good one now, and we're the most decadent, deliberate bastards too. Set foot on the planet since T-Rex, picking vegans off the floor. Whoa, and we did it with H-bombs, we did it with style. We blew holes with the sky and invented mayonnaise in a technicolor parallax, real periscopic gaze, which we did it as James Bond, we did it as brains. The solid states, vampire steaks, mopping our man juices off the floor. The kick from our shirts and the swill from our troughs. I'm all for it. Just bouncing up and down, whoa, in a universe we don't understand. And if we did, whoa, it simply wouldn't be the most violent, vile bastards to set foot on the planet since T-Rex was picking vegans off the floor. Oh. Oh, we're pure busting these trying to work out this great cosmological dance going on beneath and above and all around us. We ain't any discovery creates so on spring to agonize and behold us fathers over and over again like some kind of quantum Russian doll. And the will just keep on continuing till our synapses explode in a celestial ray of such insurmountable grandeur we simply go madness waking. Party the fuck on down. 'Cause we're the most fighting ass champions of the universe. And we're the most fighting ass champions until we're travel that old one. And we're the most fighting ass champions of the universe. And we're the most suplexing champions until we're travel that. You say you stand by your man, so tell me something don't understand. You said you loved me, and that's a fact. And then you left me, said you felt trapped. Well, some things you can't explain away, but the heartache's in me till this day. You didn't stand by me, no, not at all. Stand by me, no way. All the times when we were close, I remember these things the most. I see all my dreams come tumbling down, but I can't be happy without you around. So alone I keep the wolves at bay, and there's only one thing I can say. You didn't stand by me, no, not at all. Didn't stand by me, no way. You must explain why this must we come on this loop, John B. Grandfather and me, round that south town we did roam, drinking all night, got into a fight. I feel so broke up, I wanna go home. So what's up the John B. cell? See how the main cell says, call for the captain and sure let me go home. Let me go home. I wanna go home. Yeah, yeah. Well, this is the worst trip I've ever been on.